Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. We're going to take a comprehensive look at legal defenses in sex crime cases, diving into the key strategies and safeguards that are essential to ensuring justice and protecting individuals' rights throughout the process. This is a complex and sensitive topic, and I'm eager to explore these important aspects with you. Let's get started. Sex crime cases carry very serious legal charges that can have profound consequences for those involved. Because of this, the defenses against such charges are absolutely critical to ensuring that justice is served fairly. In this presentation, we'll take a closer look at common defense strategies, categorizing them based on their legal nature and underlying principles. One key point to always keep in mind is that the prosecution must prove the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Until then, the defendant is presumed innocent under the law. This foundational concept is essential to a fair legal process. Consent is a fundamental aspect when it comes to defending against sex crime allegations. Essentially, this defense argues that all sexual activity was agreed upon by everyone involved and was lawful at the time it took place. For this defense to hold, there are some key factors that must be clearly established. First, there must be a clear and voluntary agreement from all parties involved. It's important that no one was coerced, forced, or incapacitated during the encounter. Finally, the participants must have been above the legal age of consent as defined by the law. Whether this defense is successful really hinges on proving these conditions were fully met. Without that proof, it becomes much harder to argue that consent was present. The mistaken identity defense is used to challenge the prosecution's claim that the defendant is the person who committed the crime. It zeroes in on possible errors in eyewitness identification, which can often be unreliable, especially under stressful conditions during the event. Factors like poor lighting, limited visibility, or even witness bias and suggestive identification procedures can all impact how accurately a witness identifies someone. Ultimately, the goal of this defense is to raise reasonable doubt about whether the defendant was actually involved, making it clear that the identification may not be as certain as the prosecution suggests. An alibi defense is essentially a claim that the defendant was somewhere else when the crime took place, making it impossible for them to have committed the offense. To support this, credible witness statements are crucial. These are testimonies from people who can confidently confirm the defendant's presence at a different location. Alongside eyewitness accounts, physical evidence plays a vital role. This can include things like surveillance videos or receipts from transactions that prove the defendant was not at the crime scene. Ultimately, the purpose of an alibi defense is to clearly demonstrate, based on time and place, that the defendant could not have been involved in the alleged crime. When we talk about lack of evidence, the legal standard of proof is crucial. The prosecution must establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt to secure a conviction. If the evidence presented is insufficient or unreliable, the defense steps in by arguing that this standard hasn't been met. They'll look closely for any gaps or contradictions in the prosecution's case, which can weaken the overall argument. Additionally, the defense can challenge the credibility of the evidence, especially if forensic or testimonial support is lacking or questionable. All of this can create reasonable doubt, which is often key to securing an acquittal. Procedural safeguards are in place to protect defendants from unlawful actions by the government, ensuring fairness throughout the investigation process. One common issue that arises is illegal searches or seizures, especially when they occur without the necessary warrants. These mistakes can seriously weaken the prosecution's case. Another critical area is the violation of constitutional rights during questioning, which can compromise the integrity of the investigation. When these procedural errors happen, the consequences can be significant, often resulting in evidence being suppressed or even charges being dismissed entirely. It's essential to understand these safeguards to prevent such errors and uphold justice. False accusations happen when claims are either made up or overstated. This can stem from different reasons, such as someone acting out of malicious intent, personal grudges, or simply because of misunderstandings and mistaken beliefs. In some cases, people deliberately fabricate claims to harm others or settle scores. But other times, false accusations come from genuine confusion or misinterpretation, without any intent to cause damage. That's why it's so important to carefully examine the allegations, looking closely for inconsistencies and understanding the motivations behind them. This thorough review is a key part of building a strong defense against false accusations. The mental incapacity defense centers on the argument that the defendant did not have the mental capacity to understand either the nature or the wrongfulness of their actions at the time the offense occurred. To support this defense, expert psychiatric evaluations are essential. These assessments help to determine the defendant's mental state during the relevant period. It's also important to have thorough documentation of the defendant's mental health history or any existing conditions to strengthen the case. The legal focus here is on evaluating the defendant's comprehension and control, emphasizing their incapacity rather than their intent or consent. This distinction is crucial in understanding how the defense operates within the legal system. When discussing defenses in sex crime cases, there are a few key points to keep in mind. First, factual defenses often center around disputes about consent, the identity of the accused, or the presence of an alibi. These are critical because they directly challenge the facts presented by the prosecution. Next, procedural safeguards play a vital role in protecting a defendant's legal rights throughout the investigation process. These safeguards ensure that the legal process is fair and that evidence is gathered properly. Lastly, mental incapacity can be a significant defense, as it focuses on the defendant's cognitive state at the time of the alleged offense. This defense addresses whether the individual had the mental capacity to understand their actions or the consequences. Together, these elements form the foundation for mounting a strong defense in such cases.